Hi, you guys. Welcome to Studio 5. I'm Wendy Whelan, and it's an honor to be here. And when they offered me this opportunity to talk with someone, about someone, for you guys, I thought, City Center, musical theater, ballet. It took me back to 1982 when I first came to New York at 15 years old. I had 2 suitcases. I got off the plane with my mom, and my housing fell through. And my mom had 48 hours to find me a place to live before she had to fly home. So she called the School of American Ballet. They put their heads together. They said, call Carrie and Jacques d'Amboise, because they rent a floor to some students and maybe they'll have a space. And about 40 hours later, I was under their roof in a nice, comfortable bed for the next 3.5 years. So within that time, from 1982 to about 1986, Jacques won an Academy Award. Christopher left New York City Ballet, came back to New York City Ballet, went to Broadway, was up for a Tony, and Charlotte had gotten her first Broadway show of Cats, all in the year that I lived there. So it was a very active, loud household. Lots of laughter, lots of singing, lots of family dinners. I wasn't really a part of that part, but I got to hear it. And I could feel the energy, and I could feel the warmth of these people. And like a nice old building, the heat radiated up to the 3rd floor, and I could feel that. And it went into me, and it stayed with me. And I love these people, and I'm so grateful for them, for not only taking care of me as a young dancer, but showing me what it is to be a dancer in the New York City Ballet and what family really means. So they're sort of a family within a family within the New York City Ballet. Jacques and Christopher d'Amboise, come on out, guys. So, and if you guys haven't seen this book, I highly recommend Jacques' autobiography, which he wrote himself, I Was a Dancer, and it looks like a beautiful Tiffany's box that you just want to go shopping. So it's the classiest book. It's the classiest autobiography just about I've ever read. So, and it is a thrill to read.
Wendy, greetings to everybody. Greetings. There's a new book coming out. It's a thriller, sex, violence, backstage at the ballet. And it's called Pas de Death.
Oh, yes.
In a 9 months or a year, it should be out. And
he's not even joking, so.
yeah, no. And ooh, I'm knocking things over. That's your mic, Chris. Wendy, thank you for doing this.
Well, it's a pleasure.
No. And also, I look in the audience and I see so many people I know and love and are so important to me. And we've come together in this space, and Arlene now is the custodian of it. But I joined New York City Ballet in 1949. I was 15. And we started rehearsing here. But there was a platform over there, kind of for lecturers, and this was not Molly. It was awful slippery waxed wood. And these lights, when it was dismal and awful and cold and so and so. And the only thing I remember about it is Balanchine was choreographing for Marie and Tall Chief and I, one of his, I can't remember the piano. And she was divorcing Balanchine. And it's the only time I ever saw Balanchine walk out of a rehearsal. Wow. Because everything he did, she did the opposite, Maria. She just, and if he said, maybe you'll know, you could reach here with left hand, and then she'd do the right hand. And she just was irritating, finally sniffing and twitching, because I only realized it later. You know what Tourette's syndrome is? Well, there you not only twitch and snarl and everything, you also use foul language. He just had a minor version where he just twitched. And it was really severe. When I first worked with him, I was 8 years old. He did a little pot of dirt.
He did the Midsummer Night's Dream. And
well,
you were Puck.
I was Puck.
Yeah.
And his face was like a symphony orchestra warming up and tuning in. But he got better.
Jacques, I want to ask you, you are, if not you're one of the prototypical American dancers for all of us to watch and learn from. You sort of created American ballet in the male form. What is special about American dancers, and what did you bring to the art form to create an American dancer?
I'd like to take the credit for that, but there were other American, Bill
Dollar?
Bill Dollar.
But you brought it to America in a different way. You brought it to TV.
Yes.
You brought it to films.
Yes.
You brought it to the ballet stage. You brought it big.
Balanchine put it very beautifully about American dances. He said, they are beautiful women with long legs. They're like fillies gamboling in a meadow. And he said, they're beautiful women. And then he said, I want to be here. And that's the why. And he said, beside, there was no place left for me. I had tuberculosis, and I had lost my little dance group. And the funders, by the way, one of his funders was George Maynard Keynes, the Keynesian economist, and had given up on him. And that's when Lincoln Kirstein came to him to say, would you like to come to America? By the way, that was Lincoln's third choice.
Oh, really?
Yes, Massine was the first. And Massine, Diaghilev had died, so Massine had saved every design of Picasso and Braque and all his costumes, plus he had salted away money, and he bought an island off the coast of Italy, and he moved there. And when Lincoln came saying, right, I want you to come bring ballet to America, it's the next place for it, he said he thought Lincoln was crazy, which he was, but good crazy.
Maybe crazy makes American
But guess
ballet.
who ended up buying the island? Nureyev.
Oh.
He knew about it, and he bought.
So good.
Then anyway, Massine was there, but Massine didn't want him, so he went to Liffard. But Liffard had just stolen the Paris Opera out from under Balanchine's feet, because Balanchine was going to run the Paris Opera and had a recurrence of tuberculosis, and went in and asked Liffard, you know, Sergei, I have made this choreography. Could you go stage? And coughing, right? So Liffard went not only to stage his own Balanchine's choreography, but to take his job.
Oh, well, lucky for us.
Huh?
Lucky for us, we got Balanchine.
Well, that's why we got Balanchine.
Let me ask you, though.
Short-sighted Europeans.
Did Balanchine make Divertissement Pas de Deux and Midsummer Night's Dream for you?
Violette and me, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do the premiere because Conrad Ludlow, my understudy, did it. But that's because I had a television show.
You Dumboise people.
Willful,
You do everything.
I'm still willful. I do what I want.
He does.
And imagine I'm on a contract with New York City Ballet. He does a ballet for me. I say, Mr. Balanchine, I'm going off to do a movie. Sorry. And I'd go off and do a movie. Wow. Meanwhile, I'm on a year-round salary. And I did that several times. And a few ballets, Donizetti Variations, thing, and a few. I never did the premiere.
He made them on you, and then you didn't do the premiere.
He did them on me, and I'd say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to Miami, I'm doing a television something. And when Betty Cage was our manager, right? Without Betty Cage, the tectonic plate that Lincoln and Balanchine would have rubbed each other to death. Volcanoes would have exploded, right? But Betty Cage was the flux to keep them, right? And she was our New York City Ballet manager. And anyway, everybody came in to complain to Betty Cage. Betty Cage told me later, everybody came in to complain about you. And I'd say, what do you mean? She said, well, they'd come in every day. Someone would come in and say, Jacques changed my rehearsal schedule. Jacques did this. Why does Balanchine let Jacques do what he wants? So I said, Betty, what happened? She said, well, I said I'd ask George. So I said, well, what happened? And she said, I asked George and he said, when I was 17, no one could tell me what to do. I am not going to say to Jacques, do this, do that. He will either do good or he will do bad. Yeah. And in each case, it will not be the patriarch that chooses his life's path.
Oh, wow.
The wisdom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The wisdom.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, for you, Tyler Engel and Ashley Bowder have come on their day off between Washington trip and rehearsals.
Oh my God. Bravo.
And Susan Walters will play the piano, and they're going to be doing the divertissement pas de deux from
Susan.
Midsummer Night's Dream. So, take it away. So Christopher, you, that's a big shadow to go behind. What was it like for you? What's your first memory of dance?
Watching Jacques and Melissa rehearse, which was
How old were
frightening.
you about?
I
You
don't
think
know.
like a
I
toddler?
don't know. How old would I have been? I have no idea.
Your whole
and
child.
they used to, scream at each other while they were rehearsing, and it was
She wanted to rehearse all the time. Didn't matter, just rehearse.
no. And watching them perform, and also the tours that we did in Europe and in Greece. I remember the Herod Atticus. My brother would run the follow spot from the castle wall, and I would hang on.
With the New York City Ballet?
No.
What?
You want,
He would do a separate.
Ballet West. Well, it wasn't that. It was a precursor. It was a precursor to Ballet West that William Christensen had, and he asked me and Carol Scheimoff to tour, and we were dancing into Herod Atticus, which is the theater at the foot of the Acropolis, and it was a full moon, and I did Apollo there.
Wow.
It was
Perfect.
really thrilling for me.
Performing, I remember my first performance as a professional in the New York City Ballet.
But you did all the children's roles.
Was at 6 years old. I was the rat in Balanchine's Don Quixote, Don Q. In the beginning of the full-length work, he has a dream or a nightmare, and there's 4 feet of what used to be dry ice. I don't know what they use now or what in that stuff, but fog. And out would come 6 monsters, and my brother was the lizard, and I was the rat, and I remember it was Richard Rapp was doing Don Quixote, and we had all our things, 2 up, and then 1 down, and then turn, and duck,
Yeah,
and then
real choreography for
yeah, for the
6-year-old.
sword, the fighting choreography. Then I remember hearing at half hour that this talk that Balanchine was going to be doing Don Quixote that night. And I thought, I kind of knew Balanchine. He was sort of like Grandpa. He was sort of around, but I didn't really know. And I'm like, okay. But everybody seemed excited by this, and I didn't know why. So we get to the moment. I come out to do my bit, and out of the fog comes this madman, wild look in his eye, coming at me like he's gonna. I was like, ah! And I put my sword up and to do the usual thing, and he knocked it so hard that it went flying across the stage, disappeared in the smoke. And I'm, this tall. So I'm crawling around, trying to find the sword. I guess I knew you couldn't leave it on the stage. So I got my sword and I exited, and it was bent completely like this. And so I remember thinking about that, thinking that every time I ever worked with Balanchine, I felt like I tried to give that much because he gave that. And then I also remembered to hold on really tight if Balanchine was going to be performing that night. We all would.
That's amazing. Wow. But you didn't do a lot of your dad's roles, or did you?
I did.
And did he coach you in those?
Yeah, you
and
want
how
to tell
was
the
that?
story. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stories, I'm sure.
There are a lot of stories.
Yeah.
There's a bunch about Union Jack, which you probably know if you're dance fans. One was we got to dance opposite each other. That was the one time that I remember at New York City Ballet. We performed, we shared the stage. I was in the part that was originally done for Helgi Tomasin, and Jacques was in his part. And we would have to try to outdance each other and dance around each other. And that was extraordinary. Got this a lot of Union Jack stories.
Yeah.
But before that happened, I was in the ensemble behind Jacques, and that was rough on the opening. I don't know if we've ever talked about this. The opening of Union Jack, you walk out in a regiment, and you have 9 men behind you in a line, in a group. And the lead man has to walk out and stop on 7 and raise the arm on 1 and walk to the corner. And we all did it with him. Well, Jacques never did it on 1 or anything. He'd walk out there and he'd stop on 1 and go 3. And he would do it with such confidence that we would look wrong. And then
You were holding on tight again.
the interesting thing, though, is that there's 9 men behind him. So what do? Do you follow the leader? Or do you wait and do it on 7 like you're supposed to? And it always was a mix. So, and I'll never forget when I took over this role, I did the marching out, and I realized why it is, because dancers, like they just did beautifully when they dance, they don't think about counts, they're in a whole phrase. When you're walking, you walk out, bum, 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 bum. By the time you get to center, you're like, oh, what 8 was that? What's the count? You know? And then you're supposed to turn on the 3 and you completely, so I could never, I would make the same mistake. Anyway.
Counts. We all count in 8s usually. First 8, second 8, third 8, 5. Well, Todd Boland did it at a ballet, and it was so complicated that he said, don't count in 8s, just count 1, 2, 3. And at a certain number, you do that. 110, 111, 112. And then it was 113, and
No
yes,
way.
I mean, it was nuts.
That is too much.
But in Ivesiana, Balanchine's Bay, the music was so complex, there were 2 conductors in the pit for Ivesiana. And Balanchine in the wings counting for the dancers so that we knew when to come in, because he just heard noise.
Wow.
Just didn't hear anything but noise.
Speaking of counts, you both choreograph.
Oh, yeah.
Christopher,
He's the best one.
Christopher choreographs a lot. I've been in a number of his works, starting out when I was about 17, I think I started working with you, playing in the studio. We just played in the studio. Apparently Jacques used to do that with the other girls that used to live in his house. Stacey said Jacques would come up, let's go up to the studio and play around. Just make some work. And so you kind of got very serious about that, and you stopped dancing at a very early age, from being a principal dancer to really focus on choreography. Is that right?
Yes.
Not so.
I was fortunate to, work with Balanchine and with Robbins, but I always wanted to choreograph, and I was, even as I was working with them, I was learning from them, and Jerry and I had a lovely relationship where I would kind of give him, well, it's a long story, but Jerry never let you do anything. But he would always get stuck, Jerry, after he would do a phrase, and then you'd do the phrase, and then he'd get stuck, and it'd take 10 minutes, 15 minutes before he'd go on to the next. So I remember at 18 or something, he used to like to work out choreography on me, kind of listening to the music, deciding what I thought he might want, and then after he gave me 3 steps, I did his 3 steps and 2 more. That just felt right. And he would ignore it, and 10 minutes later, he'd give me the steps that I had just done.
Yes, like he thought of them.
As if they were his. But it was a wonderful education in choreography. And after Balanchine died and Robbins wasn't around so much, I really wanted to pursue choreography. So I stopped dancing, which is why I can still walk and play sports or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to show a piece of your work.
Can I set this up?
Yeah.
So this you're about to see is, I have been choreographing a lot of, when you learn from Balanchine and Robbins, how do you choreograph better than them? So I learned my craft kind of from them and my own experimentation, but then I really went through a phase where I abandoned that. Classical ballet, I did a lot of very experimental work, I did theater work, and I just was kind of, I had just finished creating something kind of major, and you have to put back in as an artist. Even as much as you create, you need to still nourish yourself. So I thought, I don't know, I want to go back to School of American Ballet and just watch a ballet class, which I hadn't done in years. So I went in, and it was men's class, and I don't remember who was teaching, but what was significant to me was I had been away from classical ballet for so long, and here were 16 to 18-year-old young men in their white t-shirts, their black tights, their white socks, and it was the end of class, and it came to reverence, which is the gesture we do of respect and gratitude at the end of class, that the men make the gesture and they bow, and it's a tradition that goes way back. And I'm thinking, what 16-year-old boy in New York City is bowing with reverence to a past heritage that he's... It just was so moving to me. I actually started tearing up. And I thought, you know what, I want to do a ballet that's a tribute to that tradition that I was lucky enough to be part of. So this is the pas de deux, from that ballet, which is very much my reverence to Balanchine.
You originally made it on the School of
It
American
was
Ballet,
originally done for School of American Ballet.
and then
yeah.
it transferred to the New
So,
York City
yes,
Ballet,
and to Ashley
and to Ashley and Tyler.
and Tyler.
They were originals, and they're going to dance it for you now. And Susan Walters will play the music for us.
And Susan.
Where's your white tights and your black tights and your, I'm just kidding. was gorgeous. Oh, yeah. Christopher. That was stunning.
Thank you.
Just stunning. You made that on students?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you know, School American Ballet, but
Well,
you know,
that's-
we took it to another level
that's-
when we did it with
yeah.
Ashley.
That's
Yeah, and God bless them, they put that back together like probably yesterday.
I
or
think
something.
so,
It's been
yeah.
years and years since they did it, so
very,
so great.
very beautiful.
Can I tell
You
them a
wanna talk?
little bit about taking a bow?
Okay.
Uh,
Jacques.
I would dance with Melissa in Swan Lake, it would be terrific. And when she came to bow, I knew how to do it. She'd bow. And now, the boy comes in for his bow. So Vanilla waits for me after performance and says, Jacques, you bent that's like Prince, so beautiful. Melissa, you bow peasant. Peasant. Tomorrow I show you. So the next morning before class, Vanilla gets me on the stage, and I'm going to show you her bow. I'll have trouble with this arm because the shoulders from catching ballerinas, biceps are torn, but the left arm. First, you look at the audience and you do this. Not so high that you block your face. Now, bring this whole side to the stage. Don't forget the balcony. And just look down. And when you look up slowly, look at me. That's one half the stage. Now, you do the other side. And then you drop your Now you have just divided your audience. Just like Moses, the Red Sea. You have to bring together this. But before you do that, it's like you're greedy for bow. So you have to do Jacques, the arm shucks act. Now that gets you back to center. Now you go to the footlight as close as you can to edge. And you take the two parts and you bring the Red Sea together. Cross your arms. Look at that. So, have you ever seen actors bow? Chris? Just in and just raise your arm, go up your stomach. Come down. Do it again. Thank you. I said, Tony Randall. You remember the odd couple? I said, Tony, I said, why do actors do that? Here they are. They don't even acknowledge the actress. They're just a whole line of people doing stomach ache. And I said, why don't you, first of all, let the girls do a more elegant bow. And Tony Randall said, are you crazy? Don't you know what we're doing? This is what we do. Bravo! Bravo!
So good. Well, I have maybe an even more special treat for you. Your granddaughter is going to dance for you tonight.
Shelby.
So, yeah.
Right. I heard she was
Stacy
gonna surprise
choreographed.
me.
Stacy Cadell, former City Ballet dancer and ex-Dumbois girl from the 3rd floor where I used to live, made a very special, beautiful piece. So
We have 2 wonderful granddaughters. Josephine is here with Terry.
yeah,
And Shelby is, I guess, getting ready to dance.
yeah,
Something.
you're ready.
Anyway.
That was beautiful, Shelby. Shelby's 11 years old. She's in the 6th grade at the center school. And her mother is Charlotte Dumbois, and her father is the great Terrence Mann, superstars of Broadway, grandfather and uncle of superstars of ballet and Broadway and film and books. They wrote books and everything. So sit down. Yeah. So you get to go backstage at the New York City Ballet and at Pippin, Broadway, whatever you want. What's more fun?
Backstage at New York City Ballet or Pippin?
Yeah, or wherever.
I can't really choose because
What's different?
Well, backstage in New York City Ballet, it's like really stressful because you know that you have to go on stage and you see all these principal dancers around and you're like, oh my gosh, could you like look up to them? And in Pippin, or anytime backstage, I'm just like, oh, I know everybody. My dad and mom are in this. I have friends who, like the people in the show, have kids and we hang around, so it's a lot more less stressful. Yeah.
But you do, but you do some kind of, sometimes you do theater dance, right? A little bit? You do the triple arts intensive that your mom and dad run?
Yeah, it's, well, there's this intensive at National Dance Institute where we do this triple arts, which is acting, singing, and dancing, and my parents run it, and same with my uncle and aunt and everybody. They run it and they basically teach you how to act, to improv, to sing, to dance, and at the end we put on this showcase, and it's really fun. Yeah, and I do it. Yeah.
When you grow up, what are you gonna do? What kind of dancing?
I'm leading everything, yeah. But I'm leaning towards ballet, but I also, if that doesn't work out, but that's my passion, but if that doesn't work out, I'm probably gonna like do what my parents do and yeah, acting.
Fall back on a Tony Award or two. Maybe. Good answer, Shelby. Have you learned a lot from your grandfather, from your uncle and your mom?
Sometimes he sometimes takes me to school, and after, like, we come out of the car, and he sometimes like teaches me some ballet moves, like to work on, and it really helps. And I really use all of his corrections in ballet and my classes. And my mother, I come home and she gives me like a combination. I have to do it like really well. I'm like, yeah, she does. And one time when you were at my house, you did the combination, right? Yeah, and my mom just, no, you need to work on it.
What did your mom say about jumping in class?
Oh, you have to be the highest to jump. You have even if you're like a teensy bit like late, you have to be really high. And you said,
Do you know why? That's the D'Amboises. This is Jacques, Chris, and Carrie D'Amboise, famous for their jumps, and I think you might have the gene. You might have it. But speaking of Broadway and NDI and Jacques, you started NDI on Chris. Is that right? Sort of? That's how it started? You don't need a mic. Do you need a mic?
I don't think so, but I'll use it. I realized I was a street guy from Washington Heights hanging around with gangs. And really, I mean, we used to make something called a zip gun, which was quite often your own hand would blow off. And there were these gangs, but I didn't get caught up in it because my mother made sure that after school I was at the School of American Ballet taking ballet class. And before I was 9 years old, Balanchine choreographed for me Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream. I still remember the little steps in it. And performing children roles and dancing with Oglevsky and Maria Tolchif on the stage and all these, and putting on makeup and not knowing how to do it and having grown-ups teach you and like that. I very soon realized that I didn't belong on the street with the gangs and smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and looking at dirty pictures of it. I mean, it was so wrong when you're dancing with these beautiful ballerinas and you say, hey, look at this girl, right? I mean, it was so wrong. It was distasteful. So it saved me. It really saved me from being an arch criminal. I'd have been a good girl.
But you asked Chris to bring some friends in and you wanted to just kind of
I
tease
just
them a
felt
little, right?
that I still feel it. That's why National Dance Institute. They took it out of the school system. Every public school when I grew up had an orchestra made of the students in the school, as well as a jazz orchestra. And that's all gone, that. I mean, in the public schools, they were the arts. So I just thought that my children should have the arts, but not be an artist, because that carries a lot of angst. But that would be their decision. First, they should have the arts, piano and music and dance and poetry, and on the highest level. And because they're performing arts, you don't learn a piece of music to play it in a closet on a weekend. No, you have to have your family invite friends and you do a little recital. It's a performing arts. You have to show your excellence that you've achieved publicly.
Can I just give one quote that is my favorite quote of yours? One of them, you have so many. But Jacques says, "The arts open your heart and mind to possibilities that are limitless. There are things that touch you, our brains and emotions, and they bring substance to our imagination. Human beings' greatest form of communication, the arts, walk tandem with science and play, and best describe what it is to be human." And I think that's so perfect, putting science and play together and
Yeah.
helping us
We
describe
learn
what it
best
is.
when it's play.
Yeah.
And by the way, you know a system that you can do with your children and your husband and your wives or whatever, right? You're sitting at the table and you're looking at your daughter or your sons or whatever, and you say, "Who's putting out the garbage tonight?" "I don't want to, it's my turn." "Come on, somebody has to put the garbage out." And it'll never work. They'll revolt. But if you say, "Could anybody take the garbage out, moving backwards and singing the Star Spangled Banner at the same time?" Everybody wants to do it. Right? So next time you put the garbage, try to go out backwards with the garbage bag going, "Oh, say, can you..."
Thank you guys. It's been really fun to be with you. And I have to thank you also for the surprise waltz that you gave me on my farewell.
We didn't do enough.
Well,
I started going and I thought, this is too much.
I consider that my official last
was
dance at New York
nice.
City Ballet. Thank you, Jacques, for that. Thank you for all the amazing time in the studio and all that we did together. And thank you for bringing so much joy to us tonight. And we can't wait to see what you do next.
Wendy, bravo. Wendy, have you done this before? Is this the first of them? You're going to do a lot of them? No, but you've got Wendy. This is the opening of Wendy Whelan's adventures with audience and the arts, and in particular that of dance. And I'm so glad that we were here together inaugurating it. But what's next? Plan something really good. Oh, dinner. Okay.